Good evening, and welcome to our new and our seasoned viewers. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday, where we bridge technology with financial and mental well being. Our guest this evening is Dr. Dejambra Robinson. In last week's topic, or let me say last week's episode, Dr. Robinson introduced the concept of somatic inheritance, examining how the stress, fears, survival strategies, and unhealed trauma of previous generations live in our nervous systems, in our bodies, and our spiritual DNA. And also how conscious healing allows us to interrupt these cycles. We do hope that you did watch part one. And if you did not, we have that available for you on our YouTube channel. This week, Dr. Robinson takes us further. This conversation explores how conscious trauma informed healing disrupts inherited patterns that quietly shape our emotions, our relationships, and our decision making and our money stories. Healing is not passive, it is intentional, and it changes everything downstream. So, in a moment, I will bring Dr. Robinson to the stage. Let me say a bit about her. She is a healer, a womanist theologian, and a transformational leader who specializes in healing psychospiritual trauma, somatic illness, and generational wounds. Dr. Robinson is the author of I Hope This Helps Someone, a womanist response to spiritual and psychological trauma. She is the founder of the Womanist Collective, Inc., and an ordained preacher and clinical pastor whose work bridges spirituality, biology, and liberation. I do hope after this session you take a moment to go to her website, drdjrobinson.com, to listen to not only her powerful sermons, but also to read her blog, which is equally powerful. Without further ado, let me bring Dr. DJ Robinson to the stage. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello. Good evening, Disruptors. Good evening, Zwadi. Thank you for that awesome presentation and introduction. I really do appreciate that so much. So I am so thankful to be here. Thank you, Disruptors. Thank you to the Disruptor DAO this evening. I'm so happy to be with you. I'm so appreciative of this invitation to be able to impart some of the research and some of the knowledge that I have, some of the work that I've actually been doing on myself, right? This is not something that I'm doing standing outside of everyone. I am actually doing the work and trying to get it done. Well, no, not trying. I am working, right? I am working. And so as I am working, I am sharing, I'm happy to be able to share the tools so that others can work along with me and we can work together and we can all heal as a whole and as a community. So I guess I'll just go ahead and get started because last week we talked about the spiritual redlining and about the inherited trauma and what we do to ourselves. And this week, I don't want to just give you a diagnosis without giving you a prescription for how to actually heal and how I have found myself exercising my own healing throughout my life from my own inherited trauma. So I just want to get honest with everybody. The one thing that we do have to do in our healing journey is to admit that we are suffering from spiritual redlining. This is where we have redlined ourselves, right? We have redlined ourselves, and we want to get to a place where we actually begin to heal. The first thing we need to understand is that a lot of times people, especially in church, Black church, oh, just let go and let God. Well, healing is not something that, it's not that easy. It's not that easy because we have to understand the biology of healing, that healing also is chemically bonded to your DNA. And so I have a few different things, have a lot of notes because I've been really researching and make sure that I have this for you this week. But when it's in your DNA, you have to metabolize things. You have to metabolize things. So the recap for us this week is that trauma is biology. It's not just memory. It's not about just letting go of the memory, because those memories are embedded in you, whether you want them there or not. And this is where we get intrusive thoughts, right? So I've been talking about that a little bit lately as well. And then we talked last week about the spiritual redlining, when you almost cut yourself off, and you kind of box yourself in to a place where you can't get out of this cycle of disorientation. And we're going to talk about that tonight as well. Let's see here. Make sure I can move in my slides. So trauma is biological. I did have something here that shows how our central nervous system is wired, right? We have to metabolize things because it is directly connected to your brain. When we think about things and how the body works, and we think about digestion, we think about when we eat food, right? When we eat food, our body breaks it down. It absorbs all of the nutrients and then it eliminates the waste. But when you have trauma, it's almost like swallowing things down whole, because with trauma is like a life or death situation. And so some things will happen and you have to absorb the whole thing at one time. You don't get to chew it. You don't get to bite it. You don't get to break it down. You don't get to slice it. It just comes and it hits you and you have to swallow it whole. And so we stuff it down. And because of the rapidness of eating, just think about eating something way too fast. The rapidness of it, the inability to chew it, or the lack of chewing it down, the lack of breaking it down, taking it in, you don't get a chance to digest it fully. And what happens is it becomes toxic and it stays in your system. So last week we did talk about the circuit breaker. If you remember, I was talking about flipping those switches, based on your environment, based on what you're doing, to shutting down the rooms, finding the fuse box, finding the circuit breaker. So when your house gets hit with a power surge, when the breaker trips, it's actually tripping. And we use that in a slang term. You're actually tripping to keep from burning down your own house, right? And so sometimes the young people, they now say a crash out, right? And so you're actually tripping that circuit breaker, or you have a mechanism that automatically trips that circuit breaker in order to keep the whole entire house from breaking down or burning down. So your nervous system has to have a manual circuit breaker. You need a tool in your nervous system to stop the surge or stop the flooding, or some type of way, like a mechanism where you start to choke, right? If you eat too much, that it stops you and it signals and says, hey, this is too much. This is overwhelming us right now. We need to slow this down or stop it completely. And so when we get to that, we want to understand that if you're trying to heal something like we talked about last week, your poverty mindset, by reading financial books, that's not going to work, because you cannot. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. You cannot think your way out of this, right? You have to go through this. You cannot test out of healing, right? We can do a whole lot of different things, but we cannot test out of this particular. This is like if you compare it to an exam versus a lab. You have to sit for the lab. You have to be able to go through this and metabolize this and get your hands dirty and actually do this for yourself. So so the prescription requires us to speak the language of the body. So tonight I want to give you some language. You have to remove the reaction to response, right? So you're moving and you're shifting from the tripping of the breaker to an actual response, which is ensuring that your system is not overloaded, ensuring that your circuit breakers have enough to handle the load. So with that, let's see, next slide. In my book, I hope this helps someone, I talk about trauma-based psychospiritual disorientation. We talked about the feelings of having fatigue, having hypervigilance, and I actually talked about, and I was doing some notes this week, I talked about a sanctified hypervigilance because we brought up the church last week, that we have a protective state that is rooted in historical awareness. And so rather, it's like a historical awareness, not a paranoia. So we're not paranoid, but there's a historical awareness that we have, especially as Black and brown people. And it's a refusal to trust those systems. And that's the medical system, the political system, the economic systems. And so when you have that hypervigilance and you live in that, that is also a part of that historical trauma, because that might have been your grandmother's fight. And now you're fighting it because the conditions have not changed very much, or there are still triggers in the conditions that we currently see right now today. So that hypervigilance and that feeling of being spiritually redlined, what you're experiencing is not something that is psychological. It's actually you're responding to an injury, right? You're not crazy. You're just responding to injury. And so in my research, I actually coined this term with the trauma-based psychospiritual disorientation, that when you are disoriented like this, your internal compass begins to break down. And your spirit knows, right? We can go in and we can say, God is good, God is good, God is good. You know all of the theology, you know everything, but your historical trauma has disoriented your nervous system. And you can't feel the safety of God. So even when we walk into sometimes the sanctuaries of our religious institutions, we even come in with a hyper awareness, not really sure of how, of whether or not this place is an actual safe space for me. And so when you feel that disconnect or that disorientation, that is the trauma-based psychospiritual disorientation. And in my book, you can get the roadmap to recalibrating that compass. But for tonight, I want to give you something that's not in the book, actually, and is actually a further part of my research. So to get with this, we know what PTSD, everybody has thrown that word around, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that is the brain's reaction to a threat. But with trauma-based psychospiritual disorientation, it is both psychological and spiritual. And what happens is when trauma hits you, whether it's childhood sexual abuse, it could be rape, it could be spiritual abuse, it could be betrayal trauma, it could be any type of church hurt. It hits you so hard that the nervous system literally disconnects your psychology, which is your mind, from your faith, from your spirit. And in this, when I talked about last week, Walter Brueggemann's disorientation, so we move from orientation to disorientation to reorientation, it's almost like being stuck in this place where you're in a storm and the instruments are telling you one thing, how to navigate it, but the plane is like, no, we can't do that. So your body's telling you something totally different. We're going to crash. And that is the disorientation. That is sitting in a holy place where your nervous system thinks that it's a war zone. And so this especially is significant for women of color. We deal with the triple jeopardy of, on every day in our lives. We deal with racism, We deal with sexism. We deal with classism outside of our churches. So when we come and we experience any type of trauma, it just leaves us with nowhere to stand, right? And so what ends up happening is we end up suffering, we end up sitting, we become silent because we want to be politically correct about these types of things. And so we just kind of go through the motions, and we're going through these motions, but we're disoriented. We're flying the plane through the Bermuda Triangle and never getting out. And so it's this cycle of disorientation, and we kind of stay in this atmosphere. So with this, and I'm kind of lost here, but with this, we have to get to a place where we choose a new legacy. We have to get to a place where we actually begin to cognitively make the decision and make the choice that no longer, we're not going to fly in a danger zone until we run out of gas. And so the first step to doing this is admitting, number one, that our compass is broken. We're experiencing a disconnect between what we know about God and what we're experiencing with God. And one of the things that I want to be able to give you that I preached about at one point was about the neuroplasticity. And so we have to reframe this poverty mindset. Our old pathways talk about, and I probably should have, our old pathways talk about the scarcity trauma, right? And so when we talk about our finances, why we hoard things, we talk about the scarcity trauma. That is a nervous system that is stuck in a famine. It's stuck in a, I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I don't have the capacity. I don't have. I don't have. And so we don't want to have that. That's a poverty mindset. Poverty does not start with what's in your pocket, because I promise you, we can make beans, rice, and cornbread and eat good, you know? So it's not about what we actually have. It's about how we view what we have. And so a lot of times when we have scarcity trauma, that's our nervous system that is stuck in a place of saying we don't have enough. Next, we have this impulse spending. Now that, when I found myself doing that is the dopamine regulated self-soothing, trying to go and buy stuff. I was having a conversation the other day. We go and buy stuff. We go to the thrift store and we get a dopamine high, right? We find something that we've never seen before and we think we're never going to see it again. And we get it for $2. And then the next thing you know, we're in the thrift store for hours, you know, with a load of clothes, and we already have stuff, you know, at the house. And so we bring it into the house, we leave it in the bag because we're not really ready to deal with it. And it sits in a corner, and you know, but we really did that from an impulse to self-soothe, which would give us a dopamine high to mask the trauma or mask the disorientation or whatever we were feeling. And then you have the hoarding, which is the survival terror. And so with that, we keep things because we feel like there's not going to be another opportunity, or it's not going to be another thing for us to have. Hang on. Okay. And so let's move on. So we need a somatic release, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We need to hold the weight of our sovereignty without snapping under the pressure, because a lot of times what happens is we have this pressure. And so what I've been talking about lately is that we have a response mechanism built into our systems. It's called neuroplasticity. So I recently preached about how institutions can have, or how we can operate and have a spiritual stroke, right? And so I explained, if you, and I'll put the comment or the link in the and the disruptor. But when you have a spiritual stroke, right, you have a disconnect between the body and between the mind. So we know that in the biology, a stroke means that the body is still pumping, it's still doing everything, but there's something that is not connecting between the mind. The signaling is not going to between the mind and the body, or that it's skewed, right? And that it's not properly aligned. It's not adjusting. So when you have neuroplasticity, this is after you have started to heal. When you start to heal, you actually go into a place of new neurological pathways. Your body has the ability to build new neurological pathways from the body to the mind. So any damaged pathways that were impacted by the trauma or impacted by the stroke, what ends up happening is now your body begins to build new pathways, and those are unfamiliar and they're scary. The same thing with our healing. Healing is unfamiliar and it's very, very, very scary. And so what we do is that when we build these new pathways, it is actually proof that whatever has happened to us in our lives, it is not a concrete thing. And a lot of times we get stuck in this place of thinking that this is something that is concrete. Oh, I'm always going to be like this. Oh, I can't ever get past this. I'm never going to get, and I don't know how many of you used to watch Sesame Street, but when I used to watch Sesame Street when I was little, Don Music would try to make up a nursery rhyme, and he couldn't get the nursery rhyme to actually, finish. And so he would just say, oh, I'll never get it right. And he would slam his head on the piano and just give up. And he just had to, well, this is the trauma that we sometimes go through. And he thinks that it will never, ever happen right for him. And what we're trying to do here in that analogy is that what we're trying to do here is say, no, you can rewrite your own song, right? And so I think if you remember it well, he was trying to write Mary Had a Little Lamb, but then he turned it into Mary Had a Bicycle. And so, and he wrote his own song. And what I'm trying to give you the analogy here is that you have the right to write your own song. You don't have to do it the way other people have to do it. And the way other people expect you to. Your healing is your own neurological pathway. What matters the most is that it works. What matters the most is that that even though it's scary, even though you need to, that it's unfamiliar, it doesn't work. And is it working for you, right? So you can rewire your mind, you can rewire your nervous system, you can really literally teach yourself to heal. Okay, so so this is where we begin to I don't know why this is doing this. Okay, so what I want to get to you is, this is where I wanted to really get the ability to build these new pathways and the ability to get to these new places is actually where divine sovereignty begins to rebuild, right? And so it's not just about having money in the bank. It's about holding the weight of your own life without snapping and tripping, without tripping the circuit breaker. When pressure hits, when the bills come, when the emails come, your old pathway says, you should panic right now. You don't have it, right? Spin or shut down, right? And then you just, I'm not gonna pay that bill. I don't want to do it. I don't have enough money. I'm just gonna go spend the money somewhere else. No, that is the mindset of it doesn't have anything to do with how much you have. It's the mindset that we have to change. And so somatic release is about the ability to stand and say that I feel that heat, but I am not in the fire. I am not in a place of threat. And so I've been listening to some audio books that have been talking about re-regulating the nervous system. So if I come back, maybe in a couple of weeks, we can definitely talk about that as well. But it's the ability to feel that urge, right? You want to react, but you have to actually use that new neurological pathway and choose to stand until the waves and the feeling passes by. You have the right to choose. And a lot of times we think, because we've been socially conditioned to believe a certain way, or to respond to a certain thing. And some of that, again, is historical. Some of it is genetic. We think that this is how we're supposed to respond, but you have the right to choose to respond differently. And so you tell your body, this is not that. This is not. And so we do it. We call it centering. I am in a room. I am looking at a light. I am here present in this moment right now. A lot of times your body and your brain cannot tell whether or not it's reality or not. And you have to actually train your mind and train your brain to say, I'm here in my present reality. Whatever is behind me is behind me. Whatever is in front of me is in front of me. What's behind me causes depression. What's in front of me causes anxiety. But if I can stay right here in this moment, if I can do what I need to do right here in this moment, then I am safe right now and I can get through this, right? Because next thing you know, by 5 minutes, the moment has passed and you got through it. Look at that, right? So we have to learn how to do a disruptor hijack. So your grandmother's trauma is not your war, right? We've been allowing our nervous systems to drive the car. And so I tried to get a metaphor about how the nervous system is impacting us. So and as I was doing my research, I was like, oh, that's how that is. You know how you have you ever seen those commercials where they have like the memory foam pillow, or they have like a memory foam type of, and it contours to your body, like the mattresses and stuff. And they're like, it contours to your body and they let you, well, that's kind of how our minds and how our fascias and how our hippocampus, all of these neurological things, they kind of contour, and you can get up, but the imprint is still there. And so we have to be very careful about that, when we do these things. And so, yes, we must be a master and practice being present in this moment and being centered in this moment and in this day. Today, I came across some information and I said, you have a right to be human as you learn. A lot of times perfectionism gets in the way, and we have to make sure that we hijack our own nervous systems to be able to move forward and to press forward. So here's the disruptor hijack that we put together. The first thing you must do is you must halt, okay? You must halt. You have to train yourself to stop. When you feel these feelings coming, and I promise you, disruptors, I am working on it. I am doing the work to do it. So I'm not telling you anything that I have mastered. I'm telling you what I am working through. And we have to stop. We have to halt. We have to tell our minds, wait a minute. Let's look at this again. Let's take a deep breath. Let's do a force count before we respond in a way that old pathways used to use. Before we respond and trip a circuit breaker, let's make sure that we can stop this overload and feel present in this moment and allow the moment to pass. That it takes discipline. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy. It takes cognitive discipline to be able to do that. And so you have to stop the action. When you feel the impulse to go and spend, when you feel the impulse to go and get that dopamine high, to go and overspend in Ross or in Macy's or something of that nature and keep swiping that card, when you feel that you don't have enough and you have to hoard everything, when you feel that hypervigilance, you have to tell yourself, hold on, hang on, I got to stop, halt right here. Then you have to identify what this is. This is not me, right? I am not under a threat right now. This is a survival response. And so we want to make sure that we understand what responses are survival. I was doing some research between what's smart, what's intelligent, and what's wise. And what I found in my research is that we can have the intellect, we can have the brain power, we can read the books, we can know the steps. But if we do not use wisdom on which path to choose, do I need to survive? Do I need to pull out that personality that I developed that protects me? Do I need to allow my nervous system to be overrun with something that's not even really happening right now? And so when we get to that place, we can identify now which pathway is the better pathway for us to take. Because remember, every time we trip a circuit breaker, it gets into that memory foam, that trauma or that traumatic response, or the way that we handle things. It begins to become a pattern. It becomes a habit. And what we have to do is break that habit at this point. As soon as we realize it, break it, identify it. Then you have to make the decision. You have to judge. You have to say, listen, is this something that I really need to take care of right now in this second? Is it something that is so urgent that it is really life or death? Because sometimes that historical trauma will inform your present reality and say, if you don't take care of this right now, then and they're going to come and turn your lights off. Well, wait a minute. They're not going to turn the lights off today. So let's stop. Let's think about this. Let's see what we can do and not allow it to consume our whole being, right? Our whole nervous system, our whole mind, our whole everything. But if your parent, if your mother or your grandmother was in a place where they didn't have enough, where they had their lights shut off at any point, or if they had something to happen to them in a place, it informs your narrative for right now today. And we sometimes don't realize that that's what's informing us, because maybe you haven't ever had your light shut off, but you feel this hypervigilance and this anxiety and this trauma of saying this. Well, guess where that comes from? We have to judge where that comes from. Am I really in danger right now, or am I really safe? And that's why it's important to stop and to identify and then to judge. And then you have to act. You have to act. You have to make a choice that aligns with your future. Where do I see myself going? I'm not going to look at this mud that I'm in. I'm going to look to where I can either grab a branch and I'm giving you an analogy, like say if you're stuck in the mud, I'm going to grab something or try to see something around me that's going to help me or get to pull me out, rather than focusing on where I'm standing right now, which may be in a place of disorientation. It may be in a place where I'm stuck, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to, look toward the future. And so your actions should always align with what is going to help you in the future, not what is in your past. A lot of times, let's take that analogy, being stuck in the mud. How did I get here? Oh, I should have never did this. I should have never. That is all self-criticism. That is self-sabotage. You are training your nervous system to criticize yourself. And now this is where the spiritual redlining comes in. You are actually boxing yourself in to a state of mind that is not your present reality. I shouldn't have did this. I shouldn't. You're putting yourself in a state of perfectionism. And that is not necessary at this point. This is where I need to stop. I need to identify where I am. I need to judge what I need to do, make a choice, act on that choice, right? And then celebrate yourself for what you just did. You just stopped, you just identified, you judged, and you acted. You didn't allow your history or your traumatized history to inform your present reality. And that is something to celebrate. That is something to celebrate. And then you kick, right? You kick out some of those old ways. Now that you've identified what the alternative is, that I can look toward my future, that I can actually stop myself, even if it's but for a moment, before I completely crash out or before I completely trip the circuit breaker and burn the house down. I was able to catch this thing and be able to adjust myself in a place to where I could actually feel safe in the present moment. And guess what? Now that becomes a new practice. That is that new neuroplasticity. That's a new pathway that is now being developed. Does it feel strange? Yes, it does, because it's against the norm. It's against the normal way that you normally have responded to things, or that we have normally responded to things, and we keep getting the same results, right? We keep ended up in these toxic relationships on our job, with our spouses, in our churches. We end up with this hypervigilance, always living in a place of tension. But now when you actually get to stop and breathe and count and judge and act, and then you celebrate yourself for saying, you know what, I did not allow that trauma to inform my present reality. That is a beautiful thing. So you have the ability to stop the war. And so you kick out those old tactics. Are they hard to get rid of? Yes. Please don't think that you're going to do this. We're still working, right? But do the work. Do the work and start the practice, and celebrate yourself for even the smallest things, right? Even the smallest wins. You begin to celebrate yourself and begin to celebrate how the divine is actually informing you now in this present moment that I can do this. It is doable. It is doable. So hopefully this hijack method will work for you. And then again, the trauma-based psycho-spiritual disorientation. The reason why I use disorientation instead of disorder is because disorientation is temporary. And when we start to put things in the sense of that this is temporary, that in about 5 minutes, this too, here's your scripture reference, this too shall pass, right? If we start to look at disorientation as something being temporary, then now we can hijack it and we can actually make it into a new orientation, a new pathway, something that God is doing new in us. So sovereignty, we're moving from survival to sovereignty, getting away from the impoverished mindset. It's not about your money. It's about how you think about what you have. And it's about having some discipline that needs to be built, right? These are new pathways that needs to be built. And so I have more, I'm going to turn it over, but I have more terminology for you, but I'm kind of, I kind of got in a place where I was like, that's a lot of terms. We talk about the amygdala, we talk about the limbic system and things of that nature. So what I do is I will put these on under a Disruptor DAO on my website so that you can have these notes. I'm going to try to format them really well, and so that you can have the notes, and that you can also have the slides on my website. You can download them for free or for any donation amount if you'd like. But just remember that, your cells in your body, it remembers everything. And so you have to hijack your nervous system to say, okay, I know that you remember this, and this is helpful information, but this is not where we are right now. And speaking to yourself in that way will help your body to get on the same page as your mind, right? And as your theology. So if you're ready to do this work, not just the thinking part of it, because you cannot think your way out of this. Again, you must take the lab, right? So true sovereignty is reacting to the past and then it's not reacting to the past, but it's choosing a better future. So we have the hijack, we have true sovereignty, and I'm just trying to find out what's going on with the slides. I guess it's not going to do what I want it to do. So you can heal your life, and you want this to be a place where you choose to have a better future. And the thing about it is you can have a better future for yourself, but it takes working. You must be working at it in order to get it where you want to get where you want to go. So you have to visualize yourself in a place where I am in a safe place, and I'm in a safe space, and not allow my past to inform my present so that I could have a better future. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to leave it and open it up because I have a lot of different notes in front of me and that I wanted to get out, but I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight. So if you want to come back in, we can talk about some more things. It's a lot.
You heard that sigh. That must be what you're laughing at. It is a lot. It is a lot. And
it's a lot to chew on.
Yeah. And it's no more a lot than what we are always dealing with on a daily basis.
Right.
We've just reframed it in a different way. Because somewhere in the back of our minds, like, how can I work this out? What can I do? Mm-hmm. And you've given us the toolkit.
Amen.
That acronym.
I'll shake. Hijack it. Hijack it.
Yes.
Hijack it.
Although if you're on a plane, that's not the word.
Don't hijack the plane. But you can override the system, right? There is an override code.
This has really been powerful. Since the slide that you were working with didn't come up, I'm just going to ask my crew in the back.
Let's see if I can find it.
Drop it in the chat. I've just put it in our private chat. So the name of the book, though, I will say is, where did it go?
I have it up if you want to get.
I think it's okay. So let me bring up the slide. Oops, no, that's not what I want to do.
I don't know.
Hold on one second. I will try to bring that back up. All right, I'm going to take myself off the stage one more time.
Okay.
Okay. Can you add yourself?
I can. We'll get it. We'll get it up. Well, there it is, right there. All so, right. If people want to go to the website, my website is drdjrobinson.com, and they can go /products. And so all of my writings, slides, handbooks, worksheets, things of that nature, would be right there on the website. And I encourage anyone to go on the website. I will put these PowerPoint slides up, to download for people to be able to go back and look at it.
Okay.
But and it's a one-sheeter,
chat. We did drop the name of the book in the chat. So
okay, yep.
Let me look at our comments and see, because I was so glued into what you were saying that this is not the evening to multitask.
Okay. It's not mine either, but that's okay. We got through it.
And I'm still sighing. I'm, like informative, powerful. Thank you for the great information, of course. We have told you a few times where you can get the book. Part of this whole comment thing is being able to scroll back and forth. So while people are here, I will say this: we do need a tech person because our staff has dwindled. So if anybody is so inclined, do reach out to us at Disruptor DAO. And my team didn't know I was going to say that, so
Well, while we have some time, I do want people to understand a little bit about how the trauma-based psycho-spiritual disorientation really works. Because disorientation, okay, so I went on a cruise once. That was it. That's all I needed. And when I got off of the cruise ship, because I had been out there so long, when I got back on land, I felt like I was still I don't know, you know how you still feel like like it's still like you're still on the boat.
Trying to get your
That
equilibrium back.
right, you're trying to get your equilibrium. That is how the psychospiritual disorientation kind of feels. I mean, spiritually, it's really hard to get you're walking. I knew I was walking. I knew I was on land. I knew that I was, wherever I was going, but I still had this feeling inside of me that was like, things are still moving, And so when you've been in that place, then, you can have it's called vertigo. I think it's, and so that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with God, but you don't feel like your body, your nervous system is still responding to whatever you just were for 5 days, right? And so these are some of the things. And so that's why it's important to reboot your system. It's important to have that hijack or that override code, right? Is for gamers, my daughter's a gamer, that cheat code, right? Where you can get those extra bullets or extra powers or, things of that nature, to be able to do that. So here's some Wellness Wednesdays things that you have coming up.
But before we even get to those, thank you for putting that up. You talk about hijack, and I was thinking about, in our state of trauma, many times we are maybe between 5 and 12 years old. And I'm thinking, as my 5-year-old self, I don't know if I have the capacity to go through those steps. I mean, and you talk about starting slow, the fact that it work and you must work through it. And of course, if I have an incident today and I only work through one step, but 2 weeks from now something shows up and I'm able to get through 3 steps, I am making progress.
Yes.
But in my younger self, what can I do? Could you have any suggestions?
You can't do anything. That's why it's imperative for us to do the work now. A lot of times, without getting super spiritual, the enemy targets us when we're young. That's just a part of the entire traumatic situation. Traumatic situations happen to you. They happen to you at a stage in your development where you're not able to handle it. That's why it's trauma. That's why it's traumatic, because you don't have the tools to actually handle it. So of course you don't have the tools to make adult decisions over or have autonomy over your body at 5 years old or at 8 years old or at 11 years old, right? You don't have that autonomy. So when someone tries to impose but you're developing autonomy. If you look at Erik Erikson's theory of adult development, where we're in these stages of human development, where we're trying to learn the virtues of hope and trust, trust versus mistrust. I'm not sure if people are familiar with that, but if you go on to Erik Erikson's theory of adult development, which is also in my book, when you are trying to navigate these virtues, there's something that happens. And if they are unresolved dilemmas, then that is what creates a traumatic response. Now, also remember, these traumatic responses inform your genetic memory. And so it passes forward to the next generation if the conditions are still the same, if your family is still keeping secrets. And I'm just kind of going in a different path, but
yeah. No. I'm with you. And so I was just really talking about, I'm experiencing the trauma, let's say, as a 50-year-old.
Okay.
Where I have gone in my mind, I am 12. I don't know I'm 12. I'm just acting like I always act.
Right.
How then do I access hijack? Is it something that while I'm doing the work, I really have to program into my memory? So along with trying to, with being 12, I'm like, okay, wait, I have something else.
Yes.
Let me breathe. And that's why the breath becomes so important.
I am not 12.
Okay.
I am not 12, and I am responding as though I am 12. That is the statement that actually is almost like the unlock code, right? That I am not 12, and I recognize that the 12-year-old me is surfacing in this moment. That is actually where I stopped. I stopped to say, this is the 12-year-old me responding to this situation. And I've always responded to this situation as the 12-year-old me. And so what I have to tell the 12-year-old me is that we don't have to respond to this situation anymore like this. Right. Go ahead. So I recently, because again, like I've said, I've been doing the work. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I had this vision of, and I'm not sure, how, what generation, everyone is from, but you have the Power Rangers or you have Voltron. Remember the cartoon Voltron?
Yes.
And so you had all of these different compartments. So I looked at those. You had the blue lion, you had the green lion, you had the red lion, you had this lion, or even in the Power Rangers, you had this, that, and the third, right? And so all of these were different compartments that are activated. You got the 12-year-old me, you've got the 18-year-old me, you got the 23-year-old me, you've got the this-year-old me, right? That can all respond because I've probably created these personalities. Let's put them in the personality. I've created these personalities that are designed to protect me individually in individual situations. I need to assimilate them and become a whole.
Right.
Because they only work against the toughest enemies when they're all together, when they all assimilate. So it's not getting rid of the 12-year-old me. It's assimilating the 12-year-old me it's assimilating the blue lion with the green lion, with the black lion, right? With the sword, right? Which we can call the word of God, right? It's assimilating all of that and becoming the integrated self. What happens is when we have these trauma responses, we're doing our individualized selves and trying to respond to an imminent threat, and the imminent threat is not even coming from outside of us. It's from the inside.
Right. It's all because it's all in here.
Because your mind can't tell whether this is happening now or whether this happened 20 years ago.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I can get going. It's okay.
Don't apologize at all. And I'm good. I'm really good. I'm thinking now, and I'm not asking for a response on this. It's not really a question, but I'm thinking about the people who believe in the theory of past lives.
Okay.
And so we talk about ancestors, and some people may talk about past lives and how you come back again. And you have many of those same experiences until you can work this thing out that you didn't work out the last time. Okay. So I'm thinking about where that intersects with this. And like I said, it's not really a question. It's just a thought that I have at the moment.
I think in principle it works because we will repeat a cycle of response until we change, until we choose to change. I think what the thing is that a lot of times what we don't realize is that we do have the power to choose a different pathway. We have the power to choose a different life in this timeline. Whatever we believe, if we believe that it's from a past life, if we believe that it's genetic memory, if we believe that, we've been reincarnated, whatever we believe, the theory of this is that there are cycles that will continue to happen to you until you make the choice to break it. And so what happens is, depending on what's informing you on your behavioral response or your habits, or how this cycle is, if you feel like you're predestined or doomed to do this all the time, every time you come back to this to this earth realm, or every time your energy, because I do believe that energy does not die. So, if whatever you think happens to your energy, it will go into this cycle. But what I think we don't understand is that we have the power to choose to break the cycle. We have the power to recognize it for what it is. And that's that when we deceive ourselves, the art of the enemy mindset is that it will deceive you or allow you to deceive yourself into this perpetual state of traumatic response, of behavioral or cognitive dissonance, and you just keep going in the same cycle. At one point, and here's for your Bible readers, let this mind be in you that is also in Christ. Meaning I can choose, I can be transformed, here it is, by the renewing of my mind.
Yes.
By building a new neurological pathway and not using those same damaged pathways that I've always been using. The power is recognizing it first. Wait a minute, this cycle is not getting me anywhere at all. And if I do believe that I'm going to be reincarnated or that I'm going to come back and live this life again, I need to if that's really the case, then I need to make a choice. I don't want to do this twice.
Right.
And for our Jesus people, right? Who really wants to get back on the cross? You know what I mean? Tune in next time, you know.
Absolutely. Although we are told how fabulous that is. But okay, I digress.
Okay,
I'm gonna go
to another
episode. Laura says, I've never heard trauma explained like this before. Vasta wants to know, do you see patients privately? Maybe I should.
Online, yes.
Okay.
Online.
And then we have a question. Who is the enemy?
Who is the enemy?
She missed that, but who is the enemy? Who is the enemy you were talking about?
The enemy is a mindset for me. I look at enemy, I look at evil and good. So let me see. Being a Myers-Briggs type indicator certified practitioner, I understand that there are personality preferences, right? So everyone has the ability to choose one preference over the other. Evil and good exist in all of us. It's the polarism of our genetic makeup. So if we skew toward evilness, then or things that are toxic to us, then that becomes the enemy mindset. The enemy is a mindset that where you are on a pathway and you don't get the results that you need to get to progress forward, right? So that's kind of the way that I see the enemy. So there's no enemy. There's an influence, but then when you know and you realize that the control is really in your hands, you can choose ye this day who you will serve. If God is God, then follow God, right? If the neurological pathway for you to hope in a future and to resolving, your psychological dilemmas or your developmental dilemmas, if you need to go back and resolve those, then resolve those. And if you get since you will get the results and get the virtues that you desire, then this is good. But if we make choices, knowing now that we have a choice, that's what the tree of knowledge of good and evil was all about. You have a choice now. So you can choose to do evil, which is to not progress and stay stuck in this cycle. And so that becomes enemy mindset for me. I don't know. I hope that helps.
She said, thank you.
Okay.
And for me, the thing I thought of is on this day, in this moment, am I serving God? And I am created in the image and likeness of God,
right?
Or am I serving my ego? Which will I choose?
Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Do you want your nervous system to take over? Or do you want your mindset that is of peace and hope? Do you want to calm your nervous system? Because your body is going to respond the way it's going to respond, the way it knows to respond. And so you can train it.
Yeah. And in the moment of trauma and panic, before I pulled out hijack, I would say, I would love for it to be peace. I want it to be peace. I will make it peace. And
Yes.
in that moment I can break something.
You can, right. You can become peace.
Mhm.
You can make yourself become anything you want.
Anything you want.
So why not choose peace? Especially, see, and I think sometime here it is, and I don't want to get too biblical, but that, for everyone who reads the Bible, people perish from a lack of knowledge. It's that you don't know that you have a choice to choose peace.
Mhm.
You don't know that you have a choice to choose life, because what's informing you is the historical trauma of your ancestors and that perpetual, mindset. And you say, I choose to live in peace in this moment. Is that hard? Yes, it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and act like you're going to get it overnight. If I'm working at it. And so, I used to take, and I'll just give you a little bit of my testimony. My traumatic history used to inform me to where I would stay focused on something that happened or an offense for weeks. For weeks.
Audience disruptors, can we agree with those with that statement?
For weeks. I mean, I'm replaying it in my mind like I actually have the power to edit it. I can't go back and edit that moment. I can't. But I would try it, and it would replay in my mind so bad to where I would really try to relive it, and I would get frustrated because I can't change what happened. I can't. It's over. It's gone. The only thing I can do now is I can change how I allow it to affect me. I can change how I allow it to my perspective, right? I can change how I allow it to affect my biology. So now I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but I don't spend weeks, maybe a couple of hours. And I'll probably try to blog about it, and then I'll write a whole text message. And then I saw something on social media. I'll write a whole text message, and then I'll just erase all of it and say, okay, and it's like, it takes discipline, because I can choose to stand in the same spot and go into my phone and let them have it, right? Or I can say, okay, I got other stuff to do. I have a life to live. I can choose to have peace for the next 15 minutes instead of standing here in one spot, being late for my appointments. And you understand, okay, I have to make a choice now. And that's what we were talking about with the hijack, right? You have to identify what that is. And then you have to judge whether or not this is something that I really want to do. Do I really want to spend 15 minutes on something that happened 2 hours ago? Because time is not going to wait for you.
Right.
It's not going to rush for you. It's not going to wait for you. It's going to just keep moving. And so I think about time sometime as I think about God. It's no respecter of persons. It's not waiting on any of us. So we have to do what is in the best interest of our time. And that's to use our time wisely. I'll give you this, and this for your viewers, and I'll put this up too. Just remind me to do it. I tell people, I did a series at my church, is be impeccable with your words, be incremental with your time, be intentional about your space, and immortalize your energy. That means make sure everything for all eternity, because after it's done, it's done. It's written in the book of life. This is what happened on that day at that moment. And there's no way you can go back to edit it. So immortalize your energy. Whatever you're going to do in this moment, remember that that's there for the rest of your life.
Powerful words.
Okay.
For healing. Dr. G.J. Robinson, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Disruptors. And first of all, we know you're coming back. Okay. Underneath her picture is her website. We put it in the chat along with the name of the book. And we're going to update our YouTube channel to
Okay.
and our Instagram to reflect some of this information that you've given us, including that last slide that wouldn't didn't want to act right.
Okay. No problem. No
So,
problem.
thank you so much, and
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the team. Here we
Yep.
are. Okay, great. Thank you. And I'm going to ask the team to please, by the way, take a snapshot of this if you'd like to.
Mhm.
And we have given you information on how to connect a good doctor. So once again, thank you. And I'm going to ask the team to bring up the slide for our February activities. So these last 2 weeks, this week and last week have been really powerful. And we encourage you to go back to preview both episodes. We also ask that you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you know that when we will be going online, which is Wednesday at 7:30. And we want you to tell your friends. Coming up in February, Dr. Eve, Noe, and Cassandra will be talking about how fear, compulsion, and silence shape prosperity over a 2 week period. And on that third week, Shimoda Emmanuel will talk about creative caregiving, what to prevent burnout, how to protect health and build prosperity. And in our last week, Claudette Faison comes in with Wealth is More Than Money. Now, I want to say you don't want to miss that episode, but basically, you don't want to miss any of our episodes. We are growing, we are healing right along with you, and we ask you to come in and be with us and get your healing on, get your money on, and your technology. So I'm Zawadi, and I'm signing out. Peace and hair grease. Have a good night, and we will see you again next Wednesday.